All right. So we are holding by Torah Samach 60, paragraph Gimel 3. No. The first Chelik. First Chelik. So before I came, I had pasta with garlic. So if anybody has a problem, you should know where it comes from. Be that as it may. So we have established the paths into that enable an amazing insight, oversight, uh, obviously in Torah. Last week we spoke about the fact that that there are principles in this learning Torah that is on a level of hearing, which is the nigla, the shas, which is why it says in the shas tashma, come and hear, come and listen, and that's a specific kind of learning, which is built built on details. In other words, you learn one detail, another sugya. You know, you're like with building blocks. You're building one after the other. And then we said that there's a higher level of learning. Rather, I don't know if that higher it is, lower is the right way to say it. It's like a different phase of learning. It's like a quantum leap from that kind of learning. The very same way that in Torah Chafalef, Rabbeinu says that there's a sechel p'chinas panim and sechel p'chinas ochar. And a sechel p'chinas ochar is a sechel that you add on building block of comprehension, of knowing, and you go on and on and on. And Rabbeinu said that there's a learning p'chinas kedem, which is it doesn't need all the preambles anymore because all the sechel comes with a shefa eloki, with a divine influx, divine bounty that flows down to a person. It's a knowledge that has no beginning and no end. And we call last time when we learned this term, we touched upon the fact that the Zohar does not use the term Tashma, come here, but it says Tachazi, come and see. So when you hear something, I mean you hear one thing and another thing. But when you see something, you're actually absorbing, you're seeing all the details in one shot. The thing that makes it not possible for you to take in all the details of what you're saying is like a step down mechanism in a person's brain that cuts out all the information, all the details that are not pertinent to whatever it is that you're paying attention to. So that's why, if a person goes in the street and something happens, and afterwards they're asking, like, what did you see? You ask 5 people, and each one tells you a different story. And the reason for it is because they were busy in their own, their own pattern. They were in their own groove. And suddenly something happened. It interrupted that groove. Okay. So their perception was limited to whatever it is that they got right then and there. But truth be told, if you would take a person and you hypnotize him, he's able to describe to you everything that he sees all the time. Because when you look at things, I mean, you just absorb everything. I mean, you're looking at the wall. If that mechanism that is mitzamtzem your view was not at work, first of all, you would be overwhelmed because there's too much information. As you see, there's no kalim to. But if you put the person into, if you disassociate the person from this level of existence, and you put them in a hypnotic trance, to tell you exactly, which sperm are there, which one is in place, which one is not in place, whatever, everything, the whole thing. In Kabbalah, in this higher level of tachazi, of come and see, it's a perception, it's boinus, Rabbeinu calls it this boinus, it calls it an insight of gazing. It's a path in gazing Torah. And that you perceive the whole thing in one shot. And everybody says that and afterwards you can zoom in to every single detail. Because you learn the whole thing and look in one fell swoop, you already saw the whole thing. Everything there is to see. From that end to that end, one look, you saw everything. And if you get the mechanism, to decode it, you'll be able to see and recall every single thing. We said, and then there's a higher level. Still, in the Likutey Moharan, Rabbeinu says, da, no. This is already a sight that we said that this is a knowing is a unification of the knower and the known. It's like you knowing that you're you. You can't explain, you can't give details, but the knowledge is absolute. You can't give proof that you're you. Right? I know I am because I have my Taudat Zehut with me. I have my passport with me. You know that you're you. I mean, it's like it's the opposite of the Western knowledge of knowing something which is outside you. Because the tashma is something that you hear, the tachaz is something that you see, but da is already something that looks inwards. It's a very special kind of knowledge. It's a knowledge that on one side makes you totally one with that which you know, and on the other hand, it keeps you and what you know totally independent and unable, both you and what you know, to grow and develop. The most obvious example is the man and his wife. The Adam Yodas Chava. What kind of knowledge is that? It's the same kind of knowledge that the person knows that he is who he is. They're one thing. A person and his wife are one thing. But it's a da, it's a idea, it's a das that on one hand makes them one thing, and on the other hand keeps them separate. And they're both growing, they're both developing, they're both, it's a das, it's almost like it's a das elyon. It's a very, 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 very high level. For instance, to be able to be zeichet to this kind of level of Torah gazing, of comprehending Torah on a level of you have to go through the das, you have to learn Gemara, you have to learn all the sugyas, you have to go through that. And then you have to go through the level of tachazik, The level of Tachazi is means if you come to come and see, that means that you have to be very careful about what it is that you see. And be careful what it is you look at. So Tashma means you have to be careful of what you listen to. Tachazi is always the level that you're when you're careful about what it is that you're looking at. And so forth and so on. So the Rebbe says that in order to be able to be zeicha to this kind of level of his holiness in the Torah, you need all the wealth on earth. Couldn't hold the element. So it's the only way to come to this is when we have this kind of wealth, and we already explained that this wealth comes through to arichas yamim. And we explain what is arichas yamim. Arichas yamim is not, as people usually understand it, that a person is lives for, like we saw this week's parsha, 500 years, 900 years, 800 years. And I remember many years ago, Rav Shik, I came to him once, and I complained, that I'm having trouble, I'm having problems, this and that. And he listened to me, and he said, "Isn't it great that we don't live for 900 years?" So people think 900 years, wow, that's fun, I don't have to worry about the whole thing. So what do you think the 900 years was like? Every single day is like your day, and I had to deal with whatever for 900 years. Never thought about it that way. The 900 years, okay, that's it. Home free, no problem. Let's go have fun for 800 years. Last 100 years, like take care of business. I don't know, whatever. Anyhow, no, it was 900 years of day by day by day by day. Not easy. Anyhow, the Arichas Yomim we're talking about here, the long days, is again, it's not a long days of outside. It's a long days of inside. It's a long day in the sense that you're taking your day and you lengthen it and you widen it and you stretch it. So the days become long. The Rebbe said, because when you start your day, you don't feel like doing anything. I don't even feel like getting out of bed. Yeah, but let's say, okay, you got out of bed. Then you have to daven. Yeah, okay, to daven, no problem, whatever it is. But no, but you have to daven b'koyach. You really have to pay attention to what you're saying and be machaber. So the Rebbe said that in the beginning of the day is very short, very narrow. And when the day is narrow, it's very difficult for a person to do that what he needs to do. The idea is, the Rebbe says, little by little, you widen your day by adding more kedusha into it. And we spoke about the fact that little by little is the eitzah that the Rebbe gives, how to do something you don't want to do. Little by little. You got to do it anyhow. So instead of just giving up on the whole shebang, you say, okay. First thing you need to daven is that I need to know that I have to take the time. If I say, so I'm finishing, as long as it's going to take me, then I'm done. No. Take a time. It's like, what do you have, like a half an hour, or whatever it is? So the next hour, doing nothing except davening. Okay, so this, you look at city, you take a city, bring you take Taliban, this, and then you drink a coffee, whatever it is that you do. An hour, you don't go anywhere. Little by little. Then he says, okay, and the Rebbe says, take the first, I don't know, the first, okay, so say it word for word, does it mean? And say to yourself, I'm not going to daven the whole davening, that's hard. But let's start with Odin Oilam. Then you read, the Akedah, okay. It's nice, it's a story, whatever it is, interesting. So you read, and like this afterwards, you say, you know, what are we? What is a person? What are the, me and, you know, you know, all the people are nothing. You know, all the starkers are like gunish mit nicht, and all the smartest people are like they don't have any seichel at all. You know, and all the whole thing is that except in the whole neshama that is to come, you have to give the cheshbon for you. The entire world is that nations are nothing before him. And even Kedakitol, you know, taking islands and just like that. You know what's going to happen in China and this and this and that. No. Anybody heard of Charles the Sixth or the Fifth or the Seventh? I'm not sure. King of Spain. Big. There was a big fall of Peter the Great, I think so. Remember them? Wait. Peter? It's like, Peter Pan. That's not Peter the Great. I mean, and I mean Kedakito, and the whole thing is nonsense. And then you're going to say, yeah, but we are the children of Pharaoh that you love. Avam Ohevcha, your beloved. Yitzchok, that was Nekon. Israel, that you loved him so much, you call him Israel, the Yeshua. And he says, we have to thank you. That's why we must thank you and praise you. And you just go into the, and he said, then you say Shema Israel, just the first parsha. You pay attention to what's going on. It's like you're getting into it, you know. And the more you pay attention to the words he's saying, your energy is looking for a place to go into. So if you pay attention to what you're saying, your energy will automatically flow into what you're saying, and before you know it, you'll be like climbing up the walls, you know, with David v'kol hakayach. But you start with, you know, because let's set out the time. That's the time that I'm setting. No less than that. Okay. Because I was under pressure. Anyhow. So the only way to get to this is through this Ashiras, it comes through Arichas Yomin. And Arichas Yomin, that's the wallet. That's the crypto wallet that you put into this Ashiras that enables, it gives you this insight in the Torah. That is like there's not enough gigabytes or terabytes or whatever it is in all the world's computer put together, and those are all the AI and all the things that will be in, I don't know how long. We'll never be able to fill up even a drop of those what this brilliance is. So okay, so how do you get Arichas Yamin? Where you say, okay, there's a Pchina Zokein, and the Pchina of oldness. In other words, to widen and lengthen your days constantly. Kula de Yira. I mean, you think, okay, you know, like it's an optional an optional thing, you know, to add another and another and another. Thing is that you need to know that anything which is optional, and it's not easy unless you are incredibly resolute, you'll never make it. You know how many people make this New Year resolution? They're going to sign up, you know, to a gym. How long does it last? You're going to wake up in the morning, snow and sleet. You're going to go to the gym, right? So the idea is, you know, to put whatever that you want to do in a crucible. You want to lose weight? Let's say that you have a private house, whatever. Put your office in the basement and a toilet on the third floor. You lose weight. Don't go to a gym. Arrange your friends to play a ball game, basketball, 5-on-5, with your buddies, and you own the ball. Which means you have to go there. If you don't go, there's no game. Remember the kid that they used to cover the ball when he went home? The game was over. Okay, in other words, when you have that, this is the way to do things. That, in other words, if you depend on willpower, on choice, you'll never make it. The idea is to prepare yourself. This kind of, of thing that you have to make it. The thing that unfortunately to me that lowers down the optional laziness from creeping in, and for the initial enthusiasm to fizzle, is Yira. Shayira mevia tesos kedusha bechol yom v'yom. V'dezeh misarchim misrachvim hayomim. V'fchinas say Yiras Hashem tesos yomim. The Yira is that magnet. When a person has Yira, a person is automatically, on guard to make sure, what needs to be done, what needs not to be done. And Nosson said something, they have it in the Chumash of Likutey Moharan. They have on the word Bereshis Bara Elokim, last week's portion, is that the end letters of each, the end letters of each word of Bereshis Bara Elokim, the end letters make the word emes.
Yeah.
Bereshis is tough.
Third. Second. Third.
Oh, first.
Not the first.
That one. Bereshis is tough. Bara is aleph. Elokim is mem. And then the last letter of each word. So if aleph and tough. That's the first, second, and third. Bereshis Bara Elokim. So Nosson has various insights about this. I mean, it's a very known, Sefer Tevis that a lot of Gedolei Yisrael, relate to that. Bereshis Bara Elokim Sefer Tevis emes. So Nosson has it throughout the Likutey Moharan. He has this, various insights from here, one from here. Nosson, Nosson. So I saw something totally amazing. I actually told my wife about it, and she was like, wow. Now, if my wife says, wow, because, usually they say, what's quantum physics? The question is that if a man is alone in the forest and there's no woman with him, and he says something, is it still wrong? My wife, the saying is that if a tree falls that's a quantum physics. They say that if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it still make a sound? That's the famous question. So the question is, if the man is alone in the forest, there's no woman with him, and he says something, is it still wrong? Whatever he said. My wife said, it's okay. So it means either I did something exceptionally good, or else it was anyhow. So it also says as follows. So the emes is the seal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Emes is the closest you can get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. I mean, it's a touch, because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu obviously is a lot more than just emes. There's emes lamita and beyond. There's no comprehension there. But emes is as far as in this world that you can get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the mirror that you can. That's the chosin. That's the seal. So it also says as follows: even though the emes is one, there's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no other tachlis in this world except to serve Hashem. And that's it. But nevertheless, it says according to the receivers, according to each one, each person, the emes is different. There's one person who needs to dedicate his days to singing, learning Torah, and davening. There's another person that his main thrust has to be doing tzedakah. There's another person, whatever it is, that his main thing is to do matzonot and be'emunah. Every person has his own. And not only says, and in every person, by every person, that level of emes changes every month, every week, every day, every hour. It changes. Now you need to do this. Now you need to do that. At any given moment, there's there's an emes of that particular moment. What's the right thing for you to do, or the right thing for you not to do at this particular point in time? And Nelson said, why? Because the kernel of existence is emes. So it has to be all the time, everywhere. The kernel, the seed of reality is emes. It really exists. And the emes is the seed of Kodesh Baruch Hu, which means every moment, every nanosecond, every place in space, time, thought, whatever you want to call, has a nakud of emes in it. It's unique to that nakud. And also says that therefore you understand is that you can reach a Kodesh Baruch Hu from anywhere, no matter what you did. Even a person Chas v'Chalila killed someone, he can still start all over again. Because the next moment, there is a specific nekudas emes of what is the right thing to do or not to do for somebody who Chas v'Chalila killed someone. Rabbi says there's no such thing as despair. There's no such thing as Yush. There's no thing as that. Okay, that's already beyond. No such thing. Yerush eina ba'olam klal. Famous. Even Olam Haba, the Rabbi says, like in Torah Chafalef, in Olam Haba, that somebody that left this world without any children, and his brother refused to be Miyabim his widow. Even he, and that's neshama that it says, any leaves this world, la aleinu, la alechem. It's a big balagan. Nevertheless, there is a mitzvah of chalitza. There's a tikkun that comes even to the depths. There's always a tikkun. There's always, always, always a tikkun. The years Hashem Toisif Yomim. The bottle, the Coke. Kvaka Krala. There you go. Just remember, you owe me one. Now, I was thinking about this in of Yira, there's Yira and there is Yira. The Yira of this world is something that shortens a person's life. But Yiras Hashem, it says, is Yiras Hashem Toisif Yomim. It's Yira L'chaim. It's impossible to explain this. I spoke to my Rav about this. Rabbeinu was like buzzing, you go next to a high voltage transformer, whatever it is, and goes, but Rabbeinu was buzzing with Yira, Hashem, like that. He says, Rabbeinu put his hand on the table, the table shook. And he said that if he would take his Yira, the cloak off his Yira, people won't be able to stand around his house. He'd be so scared. So I asked him, how can you exist? Such Yira. He says, that's not Yira that, like you're standing there. I mean, on the level of immediacy, it's like standing 10 feet from a lion. It's that level. but it's the opposite. Yes, Hashem toisif yomim. A lion 10 feet away doesn't necessarily, it's not a promise for long life. As far as I know, as far as I understand the issue, it's not a guarantee. But yes, Hashem is the same level of petrification. That's the right word to use, means petrified, like, but it's the opposite. It's a year that brings on life, brings more life. There's an Isachim Nischachim Ayomim, yes, Hashem Tosif Yomim. And the remez in this is as through the year, a person is zeicha to lengthen and widen his days, because what is Tosif Yomim? There is more kedusha, more additional kedusha, and it says, and v'zeh b'chinas yes Hashem ki yotzaroi. This is what it says in Yeshayahu. Yes Hashem is a person's fortune. It's a person's bank account. It's a person's vault where you store your treasures. It's about Chava. The Baruch Hu says, "Vayiven Elokim es hatzela." Hashem created, the side of Adam. He split Adam and Chava in the back. He created a backside to Adam, because before it was Adam one side and Chava the other side. So the cut. It's a Elokim es hatzela. It says. He says the Tatzela. He says that Baruch Hu built her. It's a binyan. V'yivin Elokim es hatzela. Hashem built the tzela. He built Chava. What does it mean? It's a asa ke'oitzer. He shaped her like a silo, like a vault. Shu kotzer milamala v'rochav lamata, which is narrow at the top and wide on the bottom. A woman is built in such a way, like a grain silo. Grain silo. Why doesn't it build with straight walls? Because the pressure of the wheat, hundreds and thousands of tons, will just break the walls. So what do? They build it the silo like this, right? So it's wide on the bottom, it's narrow on the top. There'll be no pressure on the walls. So the woman is built like that. It's narrow on top and wide on the bottom, so you can cuddle the baby. It's going to be carry the baby. This is not to accept the parents. The woman is the same thing in order to be able to receive the offspring. So what we learn is built. That's how a silo, that's how a vault is built. The ultimate vault starts narrow, ends wide. That's the way to keep the oitzer. This is arichas yomim, because atchalos hayomim miktzarim. The beginning of the days, they're narrow. You start them, you don't feel like doing anything, you don't feel like learning, you don't feel like, doing. They go and they widen with additional kedusha more and more and more. This through the yira, makes you into an oitzer that you're able to add more and more days. So the remez is yes Hashem yatzaroi. The yes Hashem is his fortune, his prize. It is through the yira you're zoicha to oitzer. You're zoicha to fortune. In other words, to arichas yamim. That's the only true fortune that a person has in life. Everything else, besides adding more kedusha and adding more, kedusha and tahara and yira, as they say in the commercials, it's just a light. No, it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. If you're going to make all the money that you can possibly think of in this world, no, what are you going to do with it? Now they have this rich person thing. Is we're going up to live in Mars. Wow, what are you going to do there? You're going to come back. I go to Mars. I say, I go back to Earth. Wow, that's a great idea. There's no tachlis in anything in this world except. So this is the real making. That's the real oitzer. That's the real fortune. That's the real property. The kedusha that you're able to add every single day, every single hour, every single week, every single month, day after day after day. That's to be able to hold it, you have to have your shemayim. You have to have the sashiyos. Nimtza shezoichim adei yira. Yira enables you to be zoichet arichas yomim, to true longevity. Shem pchinas zokein. This is zokein. Zokein is pchinas oldness. Now, in the original oldness in Kabbalah, they say that the partzufim, the supernal personas of Olam Eselyonim, of Kabbalah, resembles a family. You have the daughter, which is the Malchus. You have the son, which is Zer Anpin, the spheres from Chesed until Yisod. Then you have above this, you have Abba and Ima, you have the father and the mother, Chochmah and Bina. And beyond that, you have the grandfather, which is the Keser. Is Atik Yomi. The grandfather, that's a Zokan. That's the old one. נמצא שעל ידי ירא, ירא זוכת או הבחינה of Arichas Yomim, true Arichas Yomim, which is a bechina of Zokain. The thing is that every single physical metzius in this world is a mashal to a spiritual stature. So the fact that people get old as time passes is that they're going higher and higher. Bechina of a daughter and a son, and a mother and a father, then there's to be a grandfather. This is Bechinas Atik Yomin. So Atik Yomin, that's the thing that the Yira is Zochet to Ashiras. Atik Yomin is the thing that enables the Ashiras. So that Indian, that Yira brings about Riches Yomin, which brings about this wealth we're talking about, is because the Yira itself has the koch to bring the Ashiras. Why? It's because the Yira, says Rabbeinu, Shemeres mehepech shel Ashiras. The Yira guards a person from the opposite of wealth, which is poverty. What is the thing that brings about poverty? Shebal de b'chinas sheker achel vehevel yofi. As Shlomo Melech said, sheker achel, the charm, the magnetism, whatever it is sheker. It's the hevel yofi. Yofi is the thermal, something that passes, like smoke in the wind. Nothing. It doesn't remain.
I think this in the Asia Tile, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bina says, because the yesh kava mina shel sheker, there are different kinds of chen, of charm, of seduction, of attraction that people do, which is sheker. It's manipulation. It's a lie. Shosim be'amida be'achila be'dibura. That the person does on how he stands, on how he eats, and how he speaks with people, and other things. He says that every single thing has a different kind of thing. There's a second kind of a sting song. There are certain people that are considered cool if you speak like British lords. Your Majesty.
Queen's English.
And then you have a different kind of, yo man. That's a different kind of cool. Then there's the cool one you're stunning like, like you're looking like you come out of a clothing catalog, like. There's Henschel Sheker in every single thing in life. There's a swing, a slam dunk, music. If you notice, especially popular music, all music, they have this affectated way of singing. Or each one is a different Henschel Sheker. I remember I had a tape with the Nigunim, the Shabbos of Breslev that Moshe Binstock made. And I played it for people that, it touched me to the nth degree. And I played it for, some people that were musicians, whatever it is, and it didn't do anything for them because there was no sheker in it. No, look at me now. None of it. It's like the sound of the shofar. Sound of the shofar sounds like somebody's horse, like there's no voice. It's pure emes. There's no beautification. There's no stylization. There's no hip, no hype, nothing. Straight emes. This is the all kinds of henshel sheker that people do for people to like them, to manipulate people. They even know Likutey Moharan tell jokes. No, forget about that. Anyhow, there's all kinds of henshel sheker. Every single thing has a different chem miyuchad. And all these false, I don't know how to call it, charms, attractiveness, which is sheker achen, they come through hevel hayofi, the vapor. That beauty is a hevel, is a vapor. So Shlomo Melech, when he says this sheker achen, chen and magnetism and charm is, it derives from sheker. You want people to like you. You want to take advantage of them. You want to build yourself on their cheshbon. You want to use them as you can. So you're doing different things in the kind of style, And it's because for every person you have a different kind of this one I'm supposed to be. Oh please, I don't feel so. I don't me, man. Forget about it. Yeah? So for each one, you have your own henshel sheker on how to cultivate and get from that person whatever it is you want. Where does it come? So it says that comes from an initial source. It's called Hevel Hayofi, the vapor of beauty. Yishchinas Sheker Achen v'Hevel Hayofi. What does it mean? I said as follows: Dahainu mi she'eino nishma miyofi anoshim. A person that does not keep away from the beauty of women. Being exposed and attracted to the beauty of women espouses these kind of fake bonhomie and fake charm and ingratiating, gestures meant for people to like you. Why are you doing it? I remember I asked a person, I don't want to mention his name, and I remember that we spoke about we read the Satmar Rebbe used to wash himself with soap once a year for Pesach. He used to go to mikveh every day, of course, whatever it is, but to wash with soap once a year. So I remember, I asked him, it was many, many years ago. I said, excuse me, well, it's stinkt, So he asked me, why do you want to smell good? Huh? Yeah, really.
The lady.
It was a very poignant moment. Duh, yeah, right. You're right. I said, okay, but said that. Listen, there's certain standards, this in society where there's certain, people, whatever it is, and nose is something that you train. So there's a certain kind of, a minimum wage of smell. The people that beyond that is. I mean, everybody knows you can't stand the smell of nevela. You can't do that. There's a certain kind of thing that you can't take it. By the way, at Kadikach, I remember we used to have a person when I lived in America. I used to have a person in the shul, one of these people that wore layers of clothing, one on top of the other, to the other, to the other, whatever it is. And it was not possible to stand in his vicinity. And so I asked my Rav, what to do. He says, you tell him not to come to shul. He says, however, there's somebody in shul that is disagreeable. He argues with everybody. You keep him in the shul. Okay, so you sustain him, whatever it is. But I said, because of the smell, tell him to go away. So there is a certain kind of minimum, a threshold, which is please, this, but nevertheless, this idea of being, why do you want to smell good? Why do you want to look good? Why do you want to sound so appealing? Why do you want to speak and write with such allure, such poise, such allure, such style, such cool? Really? Yeah. But I'm 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. What do you want from my life? It's okay. It doesn't pass away with time. Yira is exactly the opposite of that. The epich, כמו שכתוב, שקר החן, והבל היופי. What's the condition of the pasuk? Isha yiras Hashem itisalo. A woman is yiras Hashem. She's the one that is going to be praised. In other words, through Yira, a person stays away from the beauty of women. And when a person stays away from the beauty of women, he does not expose himself to the beauty of women. That makes him stay away from fake, cool shtick to make people like him. He's not on the hunt. He's not on a prowl. And it's through the beauty of women that a person comes to a knees. That's the thing that makes a person poor, as we will say later on. The last of the Ayira, a person stays away from women, and he's Zechet Ashiris. The Yira is a Sgula for Ashiris.
How does the vendor differentiate use of the word pain in this simon versus simon one?
I don't know. There's necessarily a difference. There's Chen Shel Emes, Chen Shel Sheker. Esav is the king of Chen Shel Sheker. Yaakov Avinu is the king of Chen Shel Emes. When you're talking about Yaakov Avinu was, it says that the beauty of Yaakov Avinu, says the Zohar, was like the beauty of Adam Rishon. Adam Rishon, because that's handmade. Kodesh Baruch Hu. Nothing can be more perfect than that. And they said that the closest beauty to that of Chava was Sarah. And the closest to the beauty of Sarah was Rachel. So you had the most handsome man on earth, Yaakov Avinu, marrying the most beautiful women on earth in Rachel, and their child is Yosef. Yosef, Yefet Torah Fevara. That's Chen Shel Emes. There's not much that I can say besides the fact that Yira means another day is passing, another hour is passing, another week is passing, and it ain't coming back. That's what I'm saying. If a person wants to save money, you'd better pay for everything in cash. If you pay $100 bill on the counter, you know that $100 ain't coming back. With a card, well, it's painless. Feel the pain. That pain is your. It's Gulu Lashiras, right? To pay cash. What was a funny thing I have to tell you? I remember that when we were learning how to handle ourselves with cash because of financial, credit problems, whatever it is. So we decided, we learned with the whole thing. The thing they need to do is you need to learn how to handle yourself. First thing is pay for everything in cash, at least for a while. There are certain things you put on a keva, cheshbon chashmal, whatever those things but everything else you pay in cash. Let's put the hand in the pocket, take out. So I remember, I got a check, and salary, whatever the payments come to me, and I went to the bank, and I told them that I wanted to cash the check. So they called me to the vice manager. Why do you want cash? I looked at the guy, he looked at me. I actually told him that. I said, because my drug dealer doesn't accept checks. What business of yours? It's my money. What are you telling me what to do? He says, Bank Israel is telling me to ask. How can you ask? What kind of chutz was this? What do you want to ask for? There's no Euro. They give you a credit card. There's no Euro. It's the same kind of thing. Time is cash. It's the only cash you have. It's the only Famegan. It's the only property you have. You don't have anything else. I'll finish with a little. In New Yorker, they used to have a cartoon. There's everybody familiar with the cartoons in the New Yorker magazine. So they have these two, like midlife people, with barely, rich people, holding a martini or whatever, whiskey, whatever. And one tells the other, I owe all my fortune to a single piece of advice I got from my father. He said, son, here's $1 million. Use it wisely. I'm telling us, we are alive. Here's $1 million. Use it wisely. Shkoyach and Kol Tov, Azat Hashem, Good Shabbos, Chodesh Tov, and Kol Tov.